Hello everybody, it's Marcel here today. I wanted to talk a little bit about obesity, something of a heated topic within the feminist community right now. Not that that's a surprise to anyone. I'd spoke about it in some of my previous videos, so I figured it was about time that I gave my thoughts about it directly. Going into this, to give context, I'm coming from a job field where they are allowed to discriminate against you for your body weight, meaning they can discharge or fire you for it, whether it's being too thin or obese. Don't let the harshness in my tone detract from my knowledge or experience in the matter. I'm not here to fat shame anybody. Having said that, I'm going to break down what caused obesity to become such a problem, why it is actually a problem, and what we can all do to stop it if we choose to. So the root cause of obesity in America comes down to the Western diet. Spoiler alert, it's total shit. The average American packs in more garbage food in a day than a healthy person should eat in an entire week. Food manufacturers drastically overuse sugar, salt, fats, and preservatives in almost everything that they make. They get away with it because we consumers as a whole are more interested in instant gratification than the long-term rewards of a genuinely healthy diet. These are the 3 F's, or failures, in the American diet from how I see it. Firstly, is it fast, to include fast food as well as whatever's cooked in the house. We're lazy and we want to be able to just push a button and walk away. Secondly, is it flavorful? People don't necessarily care if something's good for them as long as it tastes good. And it doesn't matter if that's more applicable to youth, because as people develop bad habits, those habits carry on into adulthood when their bodies are no longer capable of tolerating the garbage we put into them. Then finally, is it faddish? For an example of that, you need look no further than gluten-free. Gluten intolerance is something that actually plagues people. It's a real thing, but the chances of having a problem with it are not to the degree that they're being hyped up for. We have people starting gluten-free diets that are not showing any symptoms of an actual gluten intolerance because it's hip to be gluten-free now. This is further emphasized by products that have no reason to be soliciting being gluten-free, doing so as if it's some kind of badge, buy me, I'm safe. It would be like a can of soda pop saying does not contain lactose or milk products. A good rule of thumb to tell the difference as to whether or not it's a fad or if it's something that's an actual allergen is the allergens are written on the back of the box. The fads are put on the front of the box because they want it to be a factor as to whether or not we should buy it. What the average person doesn't realize is that when you pay for processed foods that say on the box healthy, what they're buying is the good feeling that they're eating healthier. But they're not actually buying healthier food, at least not in most cases. A lot of these supposedly healthy foods have as much sugar, fat, and preservatives as any other brand. The only safe way to shop processed foods is to flip over the box and check the ingredients every single time we buy a new product. I know that I never used to do that, and it's not enough just to look. A person has to understand what's written there. If someone does not know the difference between a saturated fat and a polyunsaturated fat, or even the difference between sugar and fructose, then odds are they lack the basic knowledge required to make proper eating decisions based solely on the ingredients label. There is an alternative for those of us who don't want to go through the trouble of learning any of that, and it is to eat mostly whole foods and cook them ourselves. It may seem initially more costly to do this, but it only seems that way. Ounce for ounce, junk food and fast food are remarkably expensive. With only a little time and energy invested into diet, a person can wind up saving money. For those of you who are interested in more information on straightforward ways to eat healthier, I'll put a link in the description below to Michael Pollan's book, Food Rules. It's a quick read and a good introduction into the topic. Moving on, to further understand the body's interaction with food and the way that it processes it, we have to understand calories. Without getting too deep into the science behind it, synthesis of ATP for example, think of them as energy or fuel for the body. They come from a variety of sources to include protein, fat, carbohydrates, some having better health effects or benefits than the others. Essentially, they give us an idea of how much of the food we eat can actually be used by our bodies to live and function. Years ago, my dietitian taught me something about calories that I've never forgotten. It's called the 500 calorie rule. You see, you take the calories that a person eats per day on average from all sources including drinks, and if you increase or decrease those calories every day for an entire week by 500, it equates to 1 pound of body fat. Now that's referring to how much a person eats or how much they exercise. For example, if I normally eat 2,000 calories, and for a week I either eat 2,500 calories or exercise 500 calories per day less than I normally would, by the end of the week I should be 1 pound of body fat heavier. The same is true in the opposite direction. If I exercised 500 more or ate that much less, then it would equate to 1 pound of body fat lost. That's true for a period of time depending on the individual. After a while we acclimate to the change in diet or exercise. We become more proficient at whatever it is we're doing, and the change becomes less dramatic. Whether or not a person is better off adjusting their caloric intake or exercising it off depends on the individual. To put it into context, the average energy drink or Starbucks coffee like a Frappuccino is over 250 calories easy. Most of us drink more than 2 of those a day just trying to stay awake, not to make assumptions about anyone. And if you do the math on it, we get rewarded 1 pound of body fat after a week. Couple that with a sedimentary lifestyle and food being pushed culturally as a form of recreation, the average person has been set up for failure. We never stood a chance because we weren't given the tools we need to make better choices. Then on the flip side of the coin, you have feminists and social justice warriors pushing that any kind of standards when it comes to weight is a form of discrimination, going around trying to convince the younger generation that for some reason it's a good idea not to give a shit about how you look and just eat whatever you want, and anybody that says anything is a sexist, misogynistic bigot, making the situation that much worse. Now don't get me wrong. I'm perfectly fine with the idea if a person doesn't care for themselves or if they want to poison themselves slowly with buckets of lard. Hell, I'll hand them a spoon. It's even perfectly fine if they don't want to date people that don't appreciate their weight the way it is and try to change them. Fine, whatever. But when they come around trying to force their views on other people, or worse yet, people's children, for example, I start to get really pissed off. Artificially injecting beauty standards is not going to make anything better. It's going to make the whole situation much worse. All the desire for that is a byproduct from a generation of people made too soft and sensitive and thin-skinned to tolerate any kind of criticism towards their own bad choices. As a summary, take care of your body. Sculpt it the way that you want it to be. Don't let others convince you that your motivations for yourself are wrong because they either lack that motivation for themselves or want you to lower your standards towards them. Misery loves company, right? Though I'm not a doctor, and none of this counts as medical advice, if we all pay more attention to what goes into our mouths, we can live much healthier lives. I hope you all found this informative and interesting. If you want more information on this topic, or if you disagree with me, comment down below. I'd like to hear what you have to say. And if you want to hear more, like and subscribe.